my bass players in Bristol, and he just said, make sure you mention that we don't play instruments, we just sneeze all our music. And also make sure that you plug my interpretive dance troupe. And also make sure that you... And I was just like, shut up.
To the Young Performers podcast. Thank you for everyone who's been tuning in so far. We're going to mix it up this week. We've had a few actors. We're now going to interview a musician. And we're going to be interviewing the ruggedly handsome. The ruggedly handsome, incredibly talented, wonderfully funny and brilliant musician, Adam Silas, who is the lead singer and guitarist of Forfeits, the band. And Adam, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, thank you for coming. It's an absolute pleasure. So we're just going to jump straight into it, as we do all the time. We're going to ask a very broad, hard question, but do your best. So how did you first get involved with music?
It was probably... it's actually due to my sister, I guess, because when I was much younger, my sister decided that she wanted to play guitar. And so, because she's the eldest, she's 5 years older than me. And so, my dad took us to the local music shop, and she picked out the guitar and she picked out the amplifier, and I was like, okay, I'd like to play guitar as well. He goes, okay, you could. It's going to be her guitar, but you can, because I was the youngest. He was like, oh, you can also, because I wasn't taking this seriously, obviously. And then he bought her the guitar, he bought her the amplifier and all the accessories and all that kind of stuff. The minute we got it home, she decided, I have no interest in this whatsoever. So I had just been given my first guitar and amplifier. And it was just by default now mine because I was the other one that showed interest. My brother had no interest in it, and I was like, yay! And yeah, I started, that was when I was, maybe 8 years old. So I started playing guitar. Yeah, so thanks, sister, for being so non-committal to everything.
So you had no interest in guitar up until that point, or playing an instrument
up
until that point?
I had the really standard British experience of learning the recorder at some point in primary school, and then I think I had no interest in learning the guitar. I liked music. My brother actually, when he started secondary school, so I started playing guitar, and around that time, when my brother started secondary school, he obviously kind of, just in a different school, and he got kind of more exposed to more music and things like that. And he kind of started bringing home CDs that his friends had lent him. And one of the CDs that he brought home was Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses.
Nice.
And he put it on, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And then it was actually quite funny, quite an eclectic taste. It was like, it was all kind of in the rock vein, but he brought back, I remember the first 3 bands or 4 bands that he brought back from his mates that I listened to were Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Green Day, and Ozzy Osbourne. And there was something about that Appetite for Destruction album that just absolutely resonated with me, and so immediately I just, was just like, Slash is the coolest person on the planet, and I want to be him. Yeah. And that just coupled with the guitar playing, obviously being a really terrible 8-year-old guitarist, trying to get through Love Me Tender and things like that on the guitar. It wasn't the coolest thing in the world, but then, from then on, that was it, really.
So you say Slash was like your biggest inspiration growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the reason that I got into the kind of playing that I do, and probably the reason why I stuck with guitar as well, because there was at one point early on when I was taking lessons that I was so disheartened with it. I just thought, is it worth it? And then I kept listening to the albums, and I was like, actually, I kind of want to be as good as that. So yeah, thanks Slash.
Yeah. So can you tell us what that kind of dip, that where you didn't want to do it anymore, what that was like?
It was definitely just because of traditional kind of instruction. I was taking lessons from a guy for maybe a year, and I just hated them. They were so tedious. He never taught me anything that I wanted to learn. It was, I picked up, obviously the important stuff, like very basic technique, like how to hold your pick and how to read like tab and music and things like that. But the content of the lessons was so boring to me and so dry, and the way it was done, that I couldn't stick with it. And I had like a big lull at one point where I was just like, I hated going to the lessons. And I loved the idea of playing guitar, but I hated the lessons. So eventually I convinced my mum, was just like, can I just not go to the lessons anymore? So we stopped doing that. And then again, one of my brother's friends, he was a guitarist, obviously older than me, and he was giving kind of guitar lessons to some younger students in the school. And my brother said, would you be interested in learning something from Leo? And I was like, yeah, actually, Leo, he just seemed like a really cool guy. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm young and impressionable. So yeah, he came, and it was basically because of him I actually learned. That's where I got my playing up to where I am now, where it got me to the point where I could take it from there. So he taught me, sorry, bad English. He taught me kind of how to improvise properly. And that really fueled my kind of songwriting and guitar soloing and kind of writing. And then from that point, that gave me the real foundation for now I can take it from here. And it gave me literally the entire foundation of where I am as a player now. I don't know, something about traditional instruction in things. Obviously, it's so necessary up to a point, but you have to have a good instructor. Otherwise, it can not just not help people improve, but just totally sour them on the experience, I think, in any field.
So when did you realise that this was a serious career possibility?
When I was in year 8, I was 13 and I started my first band. And it was from then that I'd never really played with other musicians before. It was such a new experience to me because there was no one in obviously in primary school I was a bit young for it, and then as soon as I joined secondary school, this whole like massive world of new people opened up, and I was like, oh, these people have similar interests to me. So there was already like a few people that I kind of just gelled with, that I seemed to get on with, and just our first band started, and then I loved it. So I was the singer of this band purely because we didn't know anyone that could sing, and in all fairness, I couldn't sing either, but it made sense. The guy that played drums couldn't sing. The bass player had no interest in singing, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. It just kind of fell into place like that, and then playing with them, it was definitely at that point I was like, I really like this. I could do this forever.
So how did your first band meet? Was it just chatting in classes? Or?
Yeah, so I first met the drummer Joel, who I met him through a couple of other my friends who were in my tutor group, and they introduced me to Joel, who was on the other side. So our years were divided into halves. So from years like 7 to 9, you didn't have classes with the other side of the year. So a lot of the time you just wouldn't meet, unless you knew them beforehand, you wouldn't have met them a lot of the time. So they introduced me to him on the other side of the year. And then he had his best friend was also called Joel, which made things very confusing for a while. And he played guitar, so we said, okay, bring in another guitarist. And they, from their, I think, it was either their primary school or something else, they knew a bass player who had just joined our school because he was in year 7. So he was in the year below us. And just the 4 of us got together, we started playing songs, and yeah, that was kind of it.
And did you stay with that band for a while, or was it just for fun for a few years?
We stayed with that band for, let's see, I was in year 8. We played with each other for, kind of on and off for like a year or so, year and a half, and then it was, I think until about year 9 maybe. And in year 9 I got approached by someone who I'd spoken to very like occasionally, like in passing on the other side of another drummer, and yeah, this band kind of fizzled a little bit, and I got approached by this guy Josh, who said, "Hi, I know you play guitar. I'm a drummer," and I didn't know him very well, but I had no idea that he was a drummer. He didn't seem like the kind of person that would be into playing music, just from the brief moments I spent with him. And he said, I really want to get a band together. And he goes, "I know you've played with this other Josh. You played guitar with him before. Would you be interested? He's interested in playing with me. Would you be interested in joining us? And also taking the bass player from your old band." I really didn't think much of it. And then we went to practice and it was amazing. Just like the jump in musicianship. Like our bass player was always very good. Like he's the one kind of constant throughout the two bands. And he was always really good, especially for his age, because when he was in year 7, he was just like, I remember him being so good. And just Josh on drums, who I just had no idea played drums. He just absolutely tore them up. It was crazy good. And just this band, then we needed a singer, and I was like, this band is too good for me to sing. We just clicked so instantly. You'd come up with an idea and they'd just riff on it for 40. We could play something for 45 minutes together, the same idea, and it would just develop and go on, and no one would have to say a word. We'd just kind of figure it out as it went.
That's cool. And
so I still use that band as a jumping off point, as a reference point for whenever I play with new musicians. I was like, whenever I play with, it's like I played with someone new at university once, and I was like, it's good. It just doesn't feel like I don't have the same feeling as that. So I know that that's a bad sign. It kind of spoiled me very early. If you can play together without saying anything, it's always just a good feeling. Like if you so even with Forfeits, like we're in together, like we are now. You get into a room together, someone starts playing something, anything, and if the other people can just pick it up and just add whatever they want to it and make it work in some way without having to stop and go, oh, so what key are you in? Or what time signature are you playing in? Or just do that again, I'll jump. Like if you can just jump in right into it, that's just the sign of, this is how it should be, for me anyway. I think, and it's how I've always picked like the musicians that I've played with. I know it's not going to be a good working relationship if the first practice doesn't go like that. It's not going to work, and I have had to have the really awkward kind of breakup conversation with people before. I had to break up with a bass player once. Yeah. It was so uncomfortable, but he took it very, very well. But it was really like it's not you, it's me kind of talk that I had to have with him. It was again just musicians I'd never played with before. A drummer, a keyboard player, a bass player, and myself. And we started rehearsing just together. We just started playing an idea. I had an idea for a song. We just started playing it, and the keyboard and the drummer, they just got it, but the bass player just didn't. And we had a 3-hour rehearsal, and he just did not get the vibe that we were going for. And it was especially uncomfortable because he and the keyboard player were best friends. It's so awkward. And I was like, how do I tell him that I don't want him, but I want him to stay? Yeah. But he might leave if he leaves. Yeah. So it was a kind of balancing act.
So when you were at school, did you study like music, GCSE or theory or anything like that? And if so, did it help in any way?
I did GCSE music, and I did A-level music, and then I did a music degree as well. Oh wow! Awesome. And it definitely helped in that. I still think the best thing for any kind of art student is that you are with other people who are interested in what you do. Even if I know something about Bhangra music, and I know stuff about Indonesian gamelan and stuff like that. But obviously, if that's not your interest, then whatever. It's just good to know things. But as with every single music kind of course, with the GCSE, A-level, the degree, the biggest benefit I got from it was just hanging out with other musicians. And I think that's the biggest benefit. So in terms of the actual course, yeah, I think, it pushed me to, with performances, I had to perform to a certain grade, I had to perform to a certain standard. It really helped my composition, just like the theory and kind of being exposed to different artists and different composers and styles. But again, biggest benefit, just hanging out with other musicians. That's the key thing for I think for any student of the arts.
Yeah. So you studied music at uni. Which uni did you go to, and what course did you do?
I went to the University of Leeds, and I studied just the BA music, which is the more kind of classical based course. They had another one there that was popular and world music, but I went for the BA, just the standard music one, and to be honest, I got in through clearing, so it was it was an odd one. Looking back on it, I think Leeds is an amazing city, and I'm so glad I got to spend 3 years there. But it's just kind of luck of the draw that I went there. I originally auditioned, and I had my heart set on going to LIPA, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, and I auditioned there. I didn't get in, and I really wanted to go there because I went and visited my brother was at LIPA as well, and it just seemed like a whole place that's dedicated to performing arts. That's so awesome. I must be a part of this in some way. So I auditioned, didn't get it, and instead of kind of taking the hint, I decided, no, I'm going to take a gap year and I'm going to audition again next year. So I took a gap year and I auditioned again the next year, and I didn't get in. So I was like, all right, they don't want me, clearly. I will seek refuge elsewhere. And I didn't get into so many places. I failed. You should see my UCAS form. It's hilarious. I think I took a picture of it once, and I wanted to frame it because it was I had 8 universities on there, and all with this the rejected. And I just thought, that is hilarious. I constantly joked about it, being like, well, that's funny. And eventually it got to the day of clearing, and I just went, screw it, I'll just wake up in the morning, have a look at what's available, any music course at a decent university that looks fun. And, got up in the morning, looked at it, saw that University of Leeds had a music course, looked at their prospectus online. That looks like a decent course. I think I know people that are going to Leeds. It's a decent university. Cool. So I just literally rang them up. And said hi, and to the clearing hotline, and was like, "Can I come? Will you let me in?" And I didn't have the grades, but I thought, they're on clearing. They might, be scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point. And they said, okay, you are aware that our general, admission kind of grade boundaries are X or XX, whatever it was. And I said, yeah, I know, but I'd like to be considered. And they said, okay, cool. Can you just forward us your UCAS number, and we'll have a look at your personal statement, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. So I did that. I got a call in 10 minutes saying, we want you here. And it was just down to my personal statement, I guess, because I'd done so much extracurricular stuff that was music related. It just kind of read like someone that really, really, really wanted to be a musician, or just to be involved in music. And I guess they kind of liked that. And they let me in with not the grades that I needed. And literally the first time I'd ever been to Leeds was when I moved to Leeds. I didn't see the campus, I didn't see the city, I didn't see anything. I drove up with my brother in our car. We moved a bunch of my stuff. He drove up with me in one night, and he drove back the next morning. Literally, we drove there. We walked to the campus, went, this looks nice. Walked back to my halls, settled my stuff. My brother drove home. My brother drove home. Apologies. And I started university that day, my induction. Which was, so I turned up and I'd missed like a week of, I didn't miss freshers, but I missed like a couple of days beforehand, where there was like a meeting of all the music students. I missed that entirely. And they were also, when I turned up for the induction day, they were also like, oh, so whereabouts do you live? And I was like, I have no idea. Somewhere that way, in that direction somewhere, towards the city, I think. And they went, oh, okay, but what is that? Like, so not in Headingley, not in Woodhouse? And I was like, oh, I didn't know these places, I had no idea. And it was very awkward because I'd literally just moved up there that day and I knew nothing about the city that I was going to be spending 3 years in. And I felt like I'd just been thrown in. And I kind of, to be honest, I'm very happy with that decision. I really, really enjoyed my time at Leeds. I still go back to Leeds, the city, as often as I can because I really love it there. And I've still got a lot of friends who live up there.
Rejection is something that every artist goes through
Yeah.
on a painfully frequent basis. Do you have any advice to anyone starting out in the arts in general when it comes to rejection like that?
If you never have to experience rejection, you will get a very, very rude awakening at one point and it will throw you totally off balance. I know a lot of people that have just kind of been given everything that they wanted, and they've been very lucky with the opportunities they've been given through like a family member or a friend, and so they've never really had to put in the hours, and they've just kind of gone from step to step to step very, very luckily. And then always inevitably at one point something doesn't go their way, and because they've never experienced it they just fall to pieces. And I can't say you're an artist in any way until you've experienced rejection. I think until you've you're not a comedian until you've totally bombed on stage. You are not a performing musician until you have played a pub to no one and still something has gone horribly wrong. I think it's just part of the process, and the sooner you accept that and you kind of become comfortable with it, the sooner you will actually make progress. Because if you're making your decisions based on fear of rejection, you will not progress. You should never regret the things that you do. You should always regret the things that you don't do. The opportunities that you don't take are the ones you regret. Never regret something you do. Even if you get rejected, you tried. That is a positive step in your career. You have attempted to do something. And that, rejection is just so part of the process. You need to remind people of that at every opportunity.
Your band, Forfeits. Yes. So how did it start? How was it formed? Where did you meet?
Originally, the kind of fetal larval form of this band was a previous band called About Blank, named after the famous URL that you come across if you have a blank web page. We were together for a year and a half, and that was we were really happy. And we didn't have a guitarist. We had a keyboard player and a drummer. I started playing with guitars and kind of shifting between guitars and keyboards, between guitars and bass at the time, thinking, some of the songs needed a guitar, some of them needed a bass, and I thought the keys could cover, a lot of the low end a lot of the time, and I thought we played a few gigs like that where halfway through the set I'd swap from guitar to bass for different songs, and then eventually it just occurred to me that everything sounded better with the bass because the keys kind of covered the frequencies that the guitar was covering. I started plugging in my bass to like a guitar amp and a bass amp and another guitar amp and an octave pedal to try and make it sound as absolutely massive as possible to kind of make the sound so it felt like we weren't missing anything. So for a while, this 3-piece band that didn't have a guitarist sounded like the loudest rock band you've ever heard, which was really cool. And at that point, my drummer Andy said that he was going to go travelling for 8 months to a year with his girlfriend around the world, and so obviously that threw our plans into kind of disrepair for a little while. So we thought, okay, we'll use that time just to, Benjamin and I, the keyboard player, we thought we'll just use that time to write loads of new material and kind of get lots of new contacts, and so that when Andy gets back, we can, we'll have like lots of stuff to do. And then we got offered a gig by the person that is now my bass player, Tom, who he at the time was in a band, and they ran a promotions company out of Lock 17 in Camden, and they offered us a gig, and we really wanted to play it, but obviously we didn't have a drummer. So we thought, okay, we really want to do this. Andy, do you mind if we get a stand-in drummer for a while? And he goes, yeah, no, totally, go ahead. I don't want to stand in your way of playing gigs and things like that. So through Benjamin, the keyboard player who studied at Guildhall, he knew a percussionist at Guildhall as well called Nathan, and he turned up we had a week before the gig, and we had one rehearsal because that was all that we could kind of find the time to do. And Nathan came in, and again, it was just that moment where it was, this is perfect. We didn't have to say, he played through one of our songs for the first time perfectly without ever having heard it, without me saying a word to him. Just by where I was going with my kind of just like my body language and what we were playing, he just got it. And to be honest, he absolutely nailed the gig. And if anything, he played way better than myself and Benjamin. He screwed up way less than us. And everyone seemed to kind of respond really well to him in the crowd. Like he's a lot of energy, he's very expressive, he's a really funny person, and that just comes across in his playing. And I was like, I know I wanted him as a stand-in, but he's really good. So I was kind of torn at this point. I was like, Andy's my friend, and he's also a really good drummer, but it's not the same as this. It's not the same. A month before Andy came back from travelling, he sent myself and Benjamin a message saying, guys, I've been offered a job in Cardiff for at least a year's contract from when I get back, so I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm going to be able to participate in About Blank anymore. And obviously I was gutted because, I was sad to lose Andy, not only as a drummer, but also as a friend. But at the same time, I was like, yay, now I can have Nathan guilt-free. And so, yeah, myself, Nathan and Benjamin started playing together. We started recording an EP together with three songs that we're really happy with. And as soon as we'd finished in the studio, Benjamin said, Adam, I don't think I want to be in a band anymore. As soon as we'd finished recording these 3 tracks, we'd spent so much money and time, and we'd all made so many sacrifices, and my relationship had fallen apart at this point. And so I was like, oh crap. I had these 3 songs that had professionally been recorded with a keyboard player on them that was and I went onto Logic, the production software we were using. I deleted all the keyboard parts and overdubbed them with guitar parts, and it just sounded better, to be honest. Maybe it was because I was bitter, but also I was like, this sounds kind of right now. It had the drums, it had the big bass sound, and it had this kind of screaming electric guitar part, and it sounded like a 3-piece rock band. This is exactly where I wanted to be when I was 8 and started playing guitar. And obviously I needed someone to play it live because I was playing bass or guitar. I needed someone to do the other one. And my friend Tom, who booked us for that gig, I knew he was in a band he was very committed to at the time, but I really liked how he played bass, and I thought he would have the right sound for it. So I just dropped him a message saying, "Hey man, I know you're really busy with your band, but do you want to be in my band?" And he was very hesitant at the time. He was like, "Oh, very kind of umming and ahhing about it." And finally, I convinced him to just come to a rehearsal and just see how it happened. And yeah, again, just magic. Just the three of us in a room, the drummer of my dreams, now the bass player of my dreams, and thus Forfeits was born. So yeah, and then our first Forfeits show was in April this year. Yeah, April 2nd, we played our first gig as Forfeits. So very recent, and it's just kind of taken off from there. We've been as a band, we're really happy. The three of us get on really well, which is so important when you're spending so much time with people, especially if you're going to be, if the plan is to like tour and spend kind of months on end crammed into small spaces with these people, you want to at least like them.
Yeah. I'll ask two questions here. What's been your best gig ever and your worst gig ever?
Oh, I've got a doozy for the worst gig ever.
Let's go with best first.
I'll go for the best. My band that I was in throughout secondary school and sixth form, where I was just playing guitar, I wasn't the singer. The one that I still, that band that I still refer back to as these are the musicians that I hold in like really high esteem. We were part of an international Battle of the Bands competition. The final end prize was a festival slot in Germany. We had to play like a succession of gigs in London. The first one was at the Bull and Gate in Kentish Town, and then the second one was at the Purple Turtle in Mornington Crescent, and then the third one was at Dingwalls in Camden, and the fourth one, which was the UK finals, at the Forum in Kentish Town, the O2 Forum, which is if you've been there, it's a proper big venue. Like I went to see who did I go see recently there? Wolf Alice. I went to see Wolf Alice there. And the whole gig was sponsored by Marshall Amplification. So we turned up and there were just lines of Marshall stack amplifiers lining the stage, and we got given like wireless packs for sound check. And I remember just walking into the venue, and it was my first time there. Walked in and just went, "Wow, this is big. I hope people turn up." It's one thing playing to an empty pub. It's another thing playing to like an empty like arena. And so we sound checked, and just the feeling of being on that bigger stage and just looking out and just seeing that venue. We had like wireless packs given to us, so I wasn't like restrained by my lead, the guitar lead. I had to be so close to the amplifier. First time I could move from this side of the stage all the way to the other side of the stage without hindrance. And I was like, this is awesome, this is freedom. And just the guitar sounded so good just in this venue, and it was crazy. And then came to showtime, and eventually we get the call. Someone comes on and goes, "Not quite the shilling, you're up in 10. We went down the stairs, winding staircase, and it got louder and louder. We could hear the other band that were just finishing up. We could hear them playing their last song. And we're on the side of the stage putting our guitar on, our wireless packs. The sound engineers were plugging everything in for us. And we walked on stage, and there was about 1,500 people there. And it was insane because I was 17 or 16 or something, and I was like, this is crazy. This is beyond my wildest dreams. And we played the gig. It went just, where it just goes so quickly. It goes in 5 seconds, but I remember every moment of it. And the crowd response was brilliant. We played excellently, and it turned out that would be our last gig together as a band. Because then our singer went to university and we all kind of went our separate ways. But we didn't know that at the time. So we just played our hearts out, and the audience loved it. But that will always be like the benchmark of gigs. And it's also the gig that made me realise, no, I need to do this. I need to do that again. And so now it's like a personal ambition of mine to go back and play the Forum again. With my band, and for a crowd that is just there to see us like that. That was unbelievable, that gig. Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. So the worst. the worst gig.
Strap yourself in. This is quite a story. So, while I was in Leeds at university, I was training at a mixed martial arts gym, and it was like such a manly place. It was crazy. Like, it was literally like in a warehouse that was dripping with water, and it was just steel bars everywhere and tires and things like that. It was like the manliest gym in the world. And one of the trainers there said, "Oh, Adam, you play in a band, don't you?" I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, here and there." It's because we're doing an event soon, and we want some music in between fights. And I said, "You do realise my band play acoustic covers of things like Maroon 5 and The Script and John Mayer." And he said, "Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. We just need like a little bit of like nice music for people to listen to in between fights." And he goes, "We can pay you a little bit of money. We'll we can give you like a rider of like drinks and a meal and stuff like that. We'll get you there. We'll transport and everything, and we'll set up all the gear and everything, so you don't need to worry about anything. Just bring your guitar and your instruments." So I thought, okay, a gig's a gig, I suppose. How bad can it be? And he kept assuring me that was exactly the vibe they were going for. How stupid can I be? So I turn up to this church hall that had been hired out for this cage fighting event with my little acoustic guitar on my back. And okay, before he said we need a technical spec of what you need to be able to play. So I said we need an input for my guitar, a microphone for me, a microphone for the cajon and then his singing, and then an input for the keys. So we have 5-channel at least PA with mixer. Okay, yeah, we can do that. Cool. We turn up. There is a 3-channel mixer with a PA. So I plugged in my guitar, my vocals, and the electric piano, the keyboard. So the cajon wasn't mic'd up, his vocals weren't mic'd up, and it was just me singing. It could have been worse, and it did get worse, because one of the channels was faulty. But here's the thing. We had to play 3 45-minute sets. The place is obviously not in the mood for our particular brand of entertainment. The first round of fights goes on. We're dreading every second of when we have to play. We start playing. Obviously, the PA is not working properly. It's not mixed properly. So the people milling around, it wasn't really a crowd because they're all watching this big octagon that was in the middle of the church hall. And we were like on a bit of a stage on the side. We started playing, and they kind of vaguely heard noise from the side of the room because the PA was terrible. No one could hear anything. So people just started looking at us like, huh? I think they're playing music. I'm not really sure. So basically we just got people walking past us going, huh? And then carrying on with what they were doing, going to grab another beer. And it was agony. And I had invited my dad and my brother and my girlfriend at the time to come and hang out. None of whom are fans of cage fighting. It was awful. And by the third set, when they said, "Oh, you need to go on and do more," and I was like, "Nope, it's not happening, man." My band were literally like, "Adam, we don't care. We just want to go home. Can we just go home now? They don't have to pay us. We'll give them back the beer. We don't want to play anymore." Yeah. So I was like, "Okay, guys, don't worry." Mm. So probably the most uncomfortable night of my life. Yeah. Definitely the worst gig. And I challenge every musician that I meet to come up with a worse gig story than that. And so far, nothing has come close.
That's bad. Thank you for sharing that. So what's your favourite part of being a musician?
The reaction from the crowd after a good gig or during a good gig. There's nothing like it. Like when I have a crowd that genuinely wants to be there to listen to your music and is really engaging with you, and we've had people, when we had a crowd sing back one of our songs to us, like best feeling in the world. There's nothing that comes close to it, and every time that happens, it reminds me again why I do what I do and why I want to do what I do.
So what's your least favourite thing about being a musician? The one thing you could change about being a musician?
The fact about how hard it is to actually make a living doing it. I've long said that when you're younger, you're like, I want to be a rock star, like with actors, I want to be a Hollywood star, things like that. Like you start really big, and then just as life kind of crumbles you down, you kind of start settling for less. So for the last however, I don't even know how long, but for a while now, my dream is I just want to be able to make a living playing music. If it's minimum wage, awesome. Anything more than that, as long as I can pay for myself to live happily without without really struggling, as long as I can afford my life, anything above that is a bonus. But it's never been easier to become a musician in this day and age. Like you can record for yourself at home. There's so many tools to help you learn instruments now online and things like that. So many gig opportunities, but it's never been harder to actually make money doing it. So yeah, I would. That's the least favorite part of it. It's just how much of a struggle it is. That and promotion, because when you're starting out, you have to promote all your stuff really hard, and I'm sure I've driven my friends mad online and things like that. When I'm like, I've got a gig coming up, I'm going to pester everyone that I know to come to my gig, and if they don't, I will make them feel very bad about it until the next gig comes up, and they'll be like, "Hey,
best friend."
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you say? Wait, let's go back to the beginning. If you could say something, leave a little note for 8-year-old Adam, who's just about to start playing the guitar, what would you say?
Treasure your hair while it's there.
Oh, fantastic. And what would, if you could leave a message for, say, 40-year-old Adam?
I really hope it all worked out, and I'm sorry for all the stupid crap I'm doing. Hope you're still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have any advice for people starting out, anyone who's looking to pursue a career in music, what advice would you give them?
The more you can do for yourself, the happier you will be. If you can record your own videos, if you can record your own music, if you can write your own music, if you can play all the instruments, if you can, cross-promote, if anything that is related to your subject, just pick up everything you possibly can. It's my advice to everyone who wants to do anything. The more you can do for yourself without having to rely on other people, because other people suck the majority of the time. Other people will let you down. Other people you don't have any control over. Do as much yourself as you can.
Awesome. Sweet. So now, we do this every week. We'll give you some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Just a bit of fun, more than anything. So, answer this as quickly as you can. Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Favourite comfort food?
Chinese food.
Ideal holiday location?
City break? I don't know. Yeah.
Favourite word?
Fuck.
Least favourite word?
Ointment.
Ooh. Yeah. Guitar Hero or Rock Band?
Guitar Hero.
Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones?
Lord of the Rings.
Favourite swear word?
Oh, there's so many. I don't know. I couldn't possibly pick. Even though my favourite word is fuck, it might not be my favourite swear word.
I know exactly where you're coming from there. What superpower would you have?
Teleportation.
Nice. Okay, cool. So, final question. Title of the show. So, what next?
See what you did there.
Yeah.
What you did there. I see it. Our very first EP will be coming out hopefully in January or February, beginning part of 2017. We are currently looking to shoot the video for one of the songs on it, and recording some more demos because we're trying to add one more song to it, and we're not sure which one. So we are currently hashing out some ideas. We've got a few songs that we'd like to be on it, but it's we want to keep it a concise, really strong EP. So there's one in particular that we think might be the one, and we're just demoing that at the moment. But what's next is just promo, trying to get some press for it, trying to get it out there into the world and get the video done. EP should launch at the beginning of 2017, and hopefully it will all go swimmingly and I won't lose any band members.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I wish you all the best with it. So I think we're going to be linking. Is it your website? If you have a website, or
yeah, our Facebook page is what we do all of our promo from, which is just facebook.com/forfeits.
Yeah.
And from there you can find links to all our other stuff. Our single is available on BandCamp to buy, and at the moment, and it's currently pay whatever you want.
Cool.
Even if it's nothing, but if you download it, you get a free B-side as well.
Nice.
So and you can find that on our Facebook page. It'll link to it.
So we'll post a link to that below. Sweet. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Adam.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you next week with another exciting person. See you later.
Thanks everyone for tuning in again this week. If you liked our bit of a shake-up, let us know. Any musicians out there, tell us if you got any more questions. We can bring more people in, get those answered for you. As usual, please like, favorite, and subscribe to all the relevant sources like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. To check out last week's episode, click on the little annotation in the top corner, and remember to check back in next week for another cool episode.